Hey students, Armando here, and I'm going to walk you through both assignments for topic 5. So I really want you to pay attention to this video. Some of you are still not watching these videos, and I can see why you are struggling because you're not following the format that is being presented to you in a simple walkthrough video. So if you take the time to see how these students put together these papers, it is going to make this journey for you for topic 5 much easier. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our topic 5 sample paper video. Okay, so as you can see here, we have an APA title page. We've got the page numbers starting in the upper right-hand corner, and then we've got the information that we need in order to have a complete APA title page. And for the privacy purposes, I obviously have blurred out the student's name here, so your name would go there. So as we move on now onto page 2, again, the things that I want you to stick out, and in this personal model of leadership assignment, you're focusing in on 4 different types of values. But the first thing I want you to notice is that we've got our main header right here. They just called it the title of the assignment, okay? Part 1, and then you've got a little bit of an introduction here. Again, take a note at in-text citations. That is so important for every assignment, especially this one, and it clearly states it in the assignment that every content section will have supporting claims, okay? Now, because we're talking overall about the personal model of leadership, this student did a nice job using a subheader over to the left, and the first value that they're focusing on is on that individual values. Okay. So again, you can see here as the student continues to write content on that, we see a couple of key themes here, right? We see the usage of in-text citations within this very first section of the individual values. So this is exactly how I would break up your paper. You can start with individual values first and then identify what value you chose from that category and then talk about it. Okay. Now, when we move on to our second category was interpersonal values. But because we're still talking about the main point of the paper, this is a subheader, bold, black over to the left. And then you begin to see the content working down. Again, there's a good use of in-text citations, giving credit to where this student did some type of reading and provided that content to make the connection, a comparing and contrasting to what they're writing about, to what a piece of research demonstrated. And that's always the best practice. When you can take what you have, or your values in this case, and connect it to a piece of research, that makes your paper that much stronger. So again, more content here in this section. And again, another use of the in-text citation. Then we're going into the third section right here, which is now their organizational value that they chose. And again, content, and then more claims to support their content as it is required on the assignment instructions. Lastly, our last value comes from the social value. Again, their content here, and then we've got another supporting claim here along the way. And then as we scroll down in this paper, as always, and good practice, you should always have an intro, right? If you remember even back from high school, right? You want to have your intro, you want to have the body, and then you want to have a conclusion, right? So remember this IBC. So again, here is that C part where the student goes into a conclusion, does kind of a wrap up, continues to provide source information. Okay, so excellent job. And then at the end, again, per APA, you're required to have a reference page. Notice the word references, perfectly centered, bold in the middle now. Now that becomes a main header. Again, we've got page numbers throughout every page. We have the left-hand side margin. We have references in alphabetical order. And then we have lines to and beyond on any given reference indented about 6 spaces over, right? And then going in this direction. Okay, when you've got multiple lines, like in this example right here, you've got these 2 lines here now must line up, and then they go over to the right. Okay, So another great example here, and just again, let me just go over the entire reference page there. So kind of moving, back up here, and I want to go back kind of to the top here, is taking a look at this personal model of leadership. You want to focus in on what the assignment calls on you. Again, there is resource information in your topic 5. And again, you should be picking one value. You can use the Rokeach Value Survey to identify those values, but you're going to be using one value in each of these 4 categories. The first one is individual. The second one is interpersonal. The third one is organizational. And the fourth one is social or societal value. Okay. So now on this same video, I'm going to show you an example of the service project PowerPoint presentation that you will be submitting as well. Okay, so this is an example of a PowerPoint presentation that talks about this student's service project volunteer experience. Now, the first thing I want you to note is over here, I'm going to leave this slide view here so you can kind of take a look that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this student decided to have 8 slides for this particular presentation. And I'm going to walk you through each of these slides. So your first slide should kind of start with a main slide, maybe where you volunteered, and then your information on the first slide must be there so that I know obviously that is your presentation. Okay, kind of like having a title page. Now, as we move on to the next slide, okay, again, you've got contact information here. Again, this was provided back in week 2, but they made a slide out of it. Right here, we have a nice graphic, a nice picture right here. But I want you to notice this bottom part, right? This is what you need to be utilizing, which is the notes section of the PowerPoint slides, because you cannot write and do part of your research and convey what the assignment wants you to convey all on your main slide. That not only is not good slide etiquette, but that's not the way you create a PowerPoint slide. So you will be using a notes section just like this, okay? Pretty much at the bottom of almost every slide to provide additional information that you wanted to convey and to answer the research questions that are part of this assignment. So that is slide number 2. Let's go over now to slide number 3. And again, they talk about the volunteer experience, and they're talking about some of the main points that came out of this experience. And again, the main part is going to be listed down at the bottom. Okay, so again, you're going to make a connection from your bullet points down to your notes section. So this is where the research happens, or you expand upon the content happens in the notes section. Let's head over to our next slide. Okay, here are Greenleaf's questions. So what this student decided to do is to provide the questions and then a brief answer, right, at the end of each question. And then again, here is your content information here. And even notice how the student used an in-text citation inside the notes section, so that way they wouldn't plagiarize the notes section or expand upon their content with their research. Okay, so that's a great use of the notes section. We then go into the next slide for this student. Again, what are some of the leadership skills in the volunteer experience? Here they are right here. And again, we have more content at the bottom, which is really the bulk of where this information is going to come from. These are just the bullet points on the main screen. We then go into the next presentation here. The student goes into what they've learned, which is part of the assignment. You've got some basic bullet points here. And then again, they expanded the research and their content deeper in the notes section. And then we've got one more slide here, which is going to be pictures taken during the volunteer experience. Hopefully you had an opportunity to take those pictures. And again, this is just part of what the assignment called for. Now, if you were in a unique situation that you told me you could not get photos because they didn't provide it, you should have already told me that by now, and then I would have excused you. But again, some great photos to make the connection with what they did for their volunteer experience. And then lastly, an excellent job of finishing up a last slide with the reference information. Okay, so at some point, whether they use these in-text citations were in the content area or in the notes section, you always want to go ahead and do a last slide to overview the references that you use throughout your assignment. So again, even though it's a PowerPoint and it's not required to go through Lopes Write or adhere to APA standards, you want solid academic writing. So when you are even using writing down in these sections, you want to make sure that you proofread it and that you are, writing in proper English and grammar, because you could lose points for that. So hopefully this quick slideshow, and I'll kind of walk through it again, gives you the opportunity to see what your slideshow should look like when it comes to your volunteer experience. So again, if you have any questions, you can definitely use the messages field. You can use our Telegram group chat, or you can do the class questions. And if you got some value from these videos, again, if these videos help you see a visual connection to what you need to do, to what another successful student did, then you can go down below, hit the like button on this video. And again, I only mention that because there are students with thousands and thousands of students at this university and thousands of students taking servant leadership. I can only have X amount of students per class. So, whether other professors do this or not, I want to give the opportunity for other GCU students who might be taking this course to get, the advantage of seeing sample paper videos like this and maybe helping them out in their course as well. Okay. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.